What is up, Shark Nation? Welcome to another episode of the SharkPod, live here from Greystone Studios. We've got Mark Baker out there in Glenageary. How are you doing, Mark?
Great. I think it's the start of summer here. It's 20 degrees today.
You know what, Mark? It's the start of summer. It's the start of, coming out of the kind of lockdowny stuff. And I think that it's time for a new investment strategy, Mark. I think that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some opportunities with our guest, Shane from Kryptalk. How are you doing, Shane?
Good, very good. Thanks very much for having me on.
Delighted to have you on. This is something that me and Mark were talking about before. We saw your YouTube channel, all about Bitcoin, all about crypto investing. Me and Mark are coming up with a bit of a plan to dip our toes in the water. We want to do something together. Kind of get that, I guess. Commitment, or what's the word I'm looking for, Mark? Accountability buddies. That's what we're looking for. So because it's easy, because I know I do investing kind of on a monthly basis, but I try to do it on the same day every month. So it's easy enough to say, I'm going to Dundrum shopping center tomorrow. Maybe I'll put this off, and then the money's gone. So the important thing is that we're going to try to set something up here. But just Shane, your channel on YouTube, what's it all about? What's the basis of that?
Well, the tagline is Cryptalk, that Irish guy that talks about Bitcoin. It's just fairly self-explanatory, really. Wouldn't say I'm a maxi, but yeah, it is pretty much Bitcoin for me. That's the only one I would kind of recommend, and it's just short, kind of trying to keep the videos under like 10 minutes. So because basically want to keep people up to date with the latest Bitcoin price action and news, short and sweet. I read a lot of stuff that most people do not want to read. Even sometimes I'm reading it kind of going, I shouldn't have read that. It's a waste of time. Like if someone's working a busy day, comes in, they have an interest, they're able to turn it on, get an update in about 8 to 10 minutes and go, right, okay, so this is what's happening. This is the good news, this is the bad news, and just have an idea of where it's at, so, and of course, educate people who are brand new.
And when did you kind of get into the crypto space, or when did you get into the mindset of this kind of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin? How long ago was that? Have you been involved since then, or was it kind of?
Well, 2015 was the first time I heard about it. Literally Friday evening, I was driving home to work. Still remember it. Matt Cooper was talking about. He was interviewing a Bitcoin miner. I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. This guy did something with computers, and he got paid with this digital currency where there's absolutely no physical presence. It's almost like if I don't know if you ever play GTA and you get like fake money. I was like, how is this a thing? This has to be a scam, But it just, when you learn a new word and you suddenly see it everywhere, but it's not as if that new word wasn't there. It's just your brain recognizes that, oh, now I understand what that means. So it pops out. Every time it popped out, I made a point of reading what it was, whether it's online or a magazine or newspaper or whatever. But it wasn't in 2017 where I was like, right, I'm going to get some of this. Up to then, I just been basically learning little bits about it, and I suppose checking the price. I remember the day it was added to XE currency. I used to, like a lot of people, you're going on holidays, you exchange. How many is that in dollars? How much is you're buying something online? You want to know how many pounds, how much it is in euro. And I remember they added Bitcoin. I was like, all right, that's a bit of a little seal of approval. So I kept, every time I go in, I'd have a look and see what it was. And I just noticed at the time it was like, a few €100. And I'd be like, wow, that's massive. And then it would crash down to like €100. And I was like, all right, that's it, done. I must have seen that and had that feeling, I'd say a dozen times easily. And just kind of thinking, why didn't I invest back then? Why didn't I invest back then? But it wasn't 2017 where I just kind of noticed that enough to go, okay, there is something here. And that was one of the massive bull runs. So I kind of got in,
nice,
got out before it crashed. But then it was kind of like, oh, there is definitely something more here. So yeah, since 2015 heard about it, 2017 started investing in dollar cost average and trading and stuff like that.
And you know what? We're talking, that's only a few years ago, but in Bitcoin years, that's a million years ago. Things are moving so quickly. The first time I ever heard of Bitcoin, I was working for a software company in Canada. I think it was 2004. No, it was 2015. So that's it had been around. I think it's been around since 2009, 2010 or something. And that era. But this company I was working for was a software that was done that was around payments, and we set up the first payment processor that would process Bitcoin, and exactly 0 people used it. It was the biggest kind of flop product launch ever. But I think it was just maybe 5 or 6 years before its time. But that was the first time I heard about it. And they're kind of saying, okay, that's something, because I was in sales, so they're saying, okay, this keep on pushing the Bitcoin acceptance on this terminal and stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but I'll say it to them. And I didn't get too much traction. But Mark Baker, when did you first hear about this Bitcoin stuff, this online currency stuff?
I'd say it popped up on something like Tim Ferriss's podcast or Joe Rogan. So probably 2012-ish, I probably start hearing about it in kind of common people talking about it, the average person starting to talk about it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I haven't really bothered. I think there's just too many things out there. I'm interested in a lot of things, and I just felt like the time to invest in actually really going deep dive on this. So I actually haven't. So Shane, you're actually talking to a fairly complete novice here, so if you wouldn't, I was going to say to you, Luke's kind of mid-level knowledge, maybe he, a bit of an understanding, but for me and maybe some of the listeners that don't really know, starting from scratch, what's the basics that we need to know, and then we can kind of dig further into for the more advanced stuff. But
so it's a digital currency. There is has absolutely no physical presence. You can't hold it in your hand like the dollar or the pound or the yen or whatever. There's only ever going to be 21 million of them. So it has a fixed supply. That's it, fixed supply. Now it can be broken up into, one Bitcoin can be broken up into like it's 100 million Satoshis. That's just what they call, like, say, the equivalent of cents or whatever. Currently about 18.6 million have been mined to date. It's estimated that about 2 million of them are lost forever, because people have they have one of these like storage wallets, but they've lost the passwords, or they've just lost the passwords to their Coinbase or something like that, so that only, I suppose, it just limits the supply. It's decentralized, so it's not like Apple or Amazon, where it's controlled by one company, a CEO, a president, a king, a queen, or it's decentralized. It's based on networks. I noticed in one of your previous podcasts you were talking about nodes and the network effect and Metcalfe's law, and I found that really interesting because it kind of ties into that. So there's it's digital currency, fixed supply of 21 million. It's decentralized. It is all online. It's decentralized. Sorry, there's something else I missed there. It's the halving. It's deflationary, not deflationary. So every 4 years, built into the program, the supply gets cut in half. So what that means is currently 6.25 Bitcoins are made every hour. In 4 years' time, that's going to be dropped down to like 3.125. So at the moment, there's like 900 new fresh Bitcoins mined every single day. So the supply is actually being reduced, but the demand is, it's definitely increasing this year. This year was phenomenal. So I suppose basic economics, again, I am not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. If you go on to any crypto YouTuber and you watch them long enough, they're going to use the phrase, "This is not financial advice," but it's almost tongue in cheek now because no one wants to get sued. And like for me, I don't have a degree in business. I come from a science background, education background. I don't have a degree I'm not an accountant. One of you is an accountant, but I'd be writing. Yeah,
that's me.
Yeah. So, I don't have that kind of knowledge of economics. I don't have the official title. There's no such thing as a Bitcoin expert at the moment. I think Andre Antonopoulos is the only one I would consider a real Bitcoin expert. When I'm into things, I do kind of get a bit obsessive with them. I can hear my friends going, yeah, it's very much like it's so. I wouldn't invest in anything without doing the research first. So even
what draws you to it, Shane?
Pardon?
What draws you to it?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. You have these, again, it's another meme, like, oh, I'm in it for the tech, winks. But No, I want to make money. I want to make money. I want to kind of, it's a hedge against inflation. I think that would sum it up. Because, I mean, the fictitious character, Satoshi Nakamoto, who designed this and wrote the white paper on this, that no one really knows who they are, that kind of put this out on Reddit, and it basically got everyone involved and mining and trading and stuff like that. I think their vision was peer-to-peer without a middleman, like, so if I send you one Bitcoin, like, it leaves my wallet, goes to you, the miners are there to secure that transaction. So the Bitcoin blockchain, that's never been hacked. So you might hear about exchanges getting hacked. Like, for example, like if Coinbase, I don't think Coinbase has never been hacked, but like if that's hacked, you could lose your Bitcoin possibly, but the Bitcoin blockchain has never been hacked. Similarly to when Twitter was hacked last summer, I think, I don't know if you remember that, they hacked like Barack Obama's account and Donald Trump and a load of really high profile Twitter profiles. But what you had was, the headlines were Bitcoin scam. But what it was actually was these hackers, they hacked these Twitter profiles and they said something like, I'm doing a Bitcoin giveaway, send me one and a Bitcoin and I'll double it. Like, I mean, but people got caught out. People like there was like, I think there's some like, I think the last time I saw was like $40,000, something. Maybe I don't know exactly what the figure was, but I remember going, that is a lot of people who got caught out in that, like, So yeah, I suppose to simplify, it's a digital currency. It's decentralized, not controlled by one particular company or person, and there is a fixed supply. So that's really what draws me to it, like that fixed supply. I mean, if you look at, I read a fact there recently that I think 25% of all the US dollars in existence were digitally printed in 2020 because of all the stimulus checks and stuff they gave Americans. Yeah. And like that only devalues the currency. I mean, if you look at something simple like the price of a pint of Guinness, I don't know if you're Guinness drinkers or not, but take anything, but the pint of Guinness, like, it's the same stuff, it's the same volume, it's like 568 mil or something like that. But you go back through, like, year for year for year for year, it was cheaper. It gets cheaper and cheaper because just inflation. Whereas if the currency is deflation, I think that's one of the main things that attracts me to it, that, it will go up and down. There is a chance it's going to drop to zero. I personally don't believe that for a second. We could all get stung, we could all be wrong. But I would rather be the guy in 20, 30 years time going, I gave that a go and I was wrong. Then, I sold at 10,000 and now it's worth 100 grand or 200 grand. You know what I mean? So it is a risk. It's 100% a risk. Like, anyone who watches the channel, it's like a cliche. I will say it's not financial advice. Do your own research and never ever invest more than you can afford to lose. Because that's just good advice for anyone on anything. Like, I bought a bike 2 weeks ago and I went online and I compared it and I talked to my friends who were into mountain biking, and I'm not going to buy a bike without actually investing. So why would you not do your own research before you invest? And I think that's one of the reasons I made the channel, because I still believe, as much as Bitcoin is I think it's a household name at this stage, so many people don't understand what it is. And what's scarier is, I think a lot of people who've invested in it, if you ask them kind of a simple question that, like, what's the current block reward? Like, if you've invested, you should know that that's 6.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes or per block. You know what I mean? So I just think if people understood it more people would be on board.
Apart from going to your YouTube channel, where are the kind of key places that people need to know to log on to start from scratch?
Okay, I would read. Sorry, I came prepared. I didn't write this book. I'm not plugging. I read the Bitcoin Standard by it's Safety. I can't pronounce it. It's the name is Safety and Amos. Maybe you can drop a link or something. But the Bitcoin Standard, I would definitely read that book. I'd read the white paper. It's a PDF. It's about, I think it's about 12 pages. So that's the white paper that basically outlines what it is. You can get that. Just Google Bitcoin white paper, comes up as a PDF. I would start with them. But like, obviously, I'm going to recommend my own channel because it's fairly accessible and it's short. but there are some fantastic crypto YouTubers out there that like the Crypto Zombie, fantastic. Carl the Moon is quite good. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but he's his calls are very, very good. He knows what he's doing. There's another, the Crypto Mobster. These are all people like, you know, they've all really, really like non-dodgy names at all, but they know what they're doing. Like these guys are like, you know, if I'm thinking something, I'll often look at them and kind of go, yeah, I think that call is that's kind of right, you know. So definitely, I would, if those three names would well worth a watch. If you're, I would consume anything you can get. Read the articles, read the bad articles, read the ones that are like, say, trouble for Bitcoin ahead, read the ones that say drop on the hash rate, read the ones that says you know, a hack, because otherwise you're completely biased.
Yes.
You know,
it seems like just it seems like and I haven't done too much research into this. I've only been looking into this for the last month or so, and it seems like there's two camps. Like it's either going to 1 million or it's going to zero, and it's kind of like it seems like it's kind of a little bit of a silo thing, and because of my optimism, Mark, I'm all about those million. That's what I want to play. I don't want to think about it going to zero. But
you were saying, Luke, like before, that like when our kids are older, what is it that's happening now that they're going to say to us, why didn't you get on board with that? Do you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. But your response, and I think we're both in this, we're kind of around the same age category, that your response could be like, well, that was the MySpace, and then Facebook came along. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know if this is the Bebo, or I'm not sure. Do you remember Bebo?
Yeah.
I hope I never find my Bebo. That's all I'm thinking. Like I worry about my Bebo every day. If anyone finds those
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could be the Bebo, it could be the MySpace, or it could be the Facebook, you know? And you're absolutely 100% right. There is that kind of culture, not just in Bitcoin, in anything. Something's either terrible or it's great, you know? That happens. I don't think it's going to zero. I think in order for it to go to zero, everyone would have to just sell. Like everyone, you know? There's going to be some diehard holders out there. Do I think it's going to go to 1 million in my lifetime? I wouldn't rule it out, but I can't say with any form of certainty. No one can.
Well, Shane, I think it's going to 1 million, and I'll tell Mark why, because I've been trying to convince him. No, I think so. I'm looking at things like since I've had a child, I've been thinking about things in a completely different way. Before, because I've worked in sales for a long time, and I'm in this, so it's always monthly quotas and monthly targets and stuff like that. So I've just been monthly. But since I've had the child, my mind has expanded into a 20-year vision. That's like, I don't want to buy anything that I'm not going to hold for 20 years. That's like a superpower, right? So I've got, like Mark, I've told Mark about all this stuff, but I've got like stuff on CRISPR, gene technology stuff that is not doing well this year, but I don't care at all. That's the space where I think it's going to be. So I'm picking what I'd like to have in 20 years to give to him, or to be able to kind of leverage so he can get in a house or an apartment, or, you know, I want to have something that's going to be growing. And then sometimes when you look at I set up a Coinbase account. So for those people that are listening, again, not advice, but like kind of advice, not financial investing advice, but like app advice.
Yeah.
So if you go to Coinbase, they've just IPO'd. They're a publicly traded company that kind of gave me a little bit more confidence in them. A lot of people use a thing called Binance, which I have no idea what that is. Is that just a bigger?
It's another exchange. Like, think of Coinbase as basically the most user-friendly crypto exchange. It's the pop music of exchange.
It feels like that. It feels great when you go in, and then so when you're used to this, when you're going, and I used to work in Davy stockbrokers as well. I used to go in, and it was like very much, okay, you know, we got a yield on this. It's 0.6%, and then we all, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then you go into Coinbase, and they've got like 60 different coins, and they're all up like 80% on the day and stuff. You're like, it seems like you just have to throw. If you throw enough darts, you're going to hit a winner. But I guess there's a flip side of that. But my point is, the type of growth that are in, that's the more speculative ones. But even Bitcoin's grown in the hundreds of percent over the last year or something.
Yeah, March 2020, it was down to 4,000, and then it hit a peak at 64,900 like a month ago. So, oh God, what's 4 into 64? What are you talking? Don't do maths on the radio. 16x or something like that.
16.
I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah, 16. Mark, so if you want to invest in one of those big companies that you like, a 16x investment is like unheard of, especially in a year. That's nuts. So the when you think about the exponential growth of that and how the supply is shrinking, then you start to get a feel for the economics. And there's places in the world that are accepting Bitcoin Cash on your card and stuff. It will be something that people can use. I worry that, okay, that's kind of the use case where, like, I really got excited about just before this call. I was listening to 6-1, or sorry, it wasn't 6-1. It was just like the midday news. And so for our international listeners, we've got like one kind of real news that everybody watches in Ireland on RT. And the governor of the central bank was warning people not to invest in Bitcoin. And I was like, he's worried. We're coming for him. Right. And that made me think, oh, if he's trying to put me off, he's out of a job. Imagine if the government couldn't have that chokehold on everything. There's no deemed disposal on crypto stuff. It's just something that to me makes complete sense. And I think that it takes you have to take, like, there's a gap there where, like, is this just kind of just speculative? And then you can start to think, is money just speculative? Money only has value that we put in it, and they keep on pumping money into the system. So, like, I've worked hard, I've saved my money, and they are just diluting it every year. And if you can have a system where that's not the case, the problem is there's so much speculation that the variance of price is so much that, as I think now, I say it would probably be impossible to set up like a Bitcoin bank where you're giving mortgages at, like, in Bitcoin.
It's starting.
Is it?
Yeah, this is, I'll just explain what this is. Like, I'm not trying to plug this, but like, if you buy off Coinbase and you leave your Bitcoin on Coinbase, you check your app, it's in a wallet, right? The thing I just showed you there is called a cold storage wallet. And when you buy off Coinbase and you give them your money, you don't really have custody of your private keys. Like, it's basically an IOU. Yeah. So it's like going to bank, buying a house, and they're like, oh yeah, the house is yours, but we're just going to hang on to this deed here. You know what I mean? So with that thing, you can actually, you send your money basically from Coinbase to that, and you basically sign for it using a digital signature. You've custody of your own private keys. It's actually yours. So if Coinbase gets hacked, not your problem. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, like, that's the safest way of storing Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But if you take something like BlockFi, just www.blockfi.com, this is, have you heard of, you probably don't know who the Winklevoss twins are?
Yeah, only Facebook. From the Facebook movie that I seen.
They're
looking guys.
Yeah, they're Olympians who's, I think they countersued Mark Zuckerberg, said he stole the idea. They're Bitcoin billionaires. Like, they've been in for like years. They're like silly rich. I'm pretty sure that's one of their companies. And what you can do is, like, you can send Bitcoin to that, and it's an interest account, 6% a year, and it pays it out in Bitcoin. So, like, if you just let's just have a look at that. Like, you put one Bitcoin. Let's say if you have one Bitcoin, you send it to BlockFi, you set up your interest account, you earn 6% of a Bitcoin. So what banks do you know that are giving 6% interest? So the next thing, like DeFi, the world of decentralized finance, like, there's going to be insurance getting involved. Like, you've had U-turns from JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all these people who say, no, don't touch that. Like, in 2017, JP Morgan literally said he'd fire anyone in his company trading Bitcoin. Now they're offering it to their clients. Like, it's bizarre. Like, so all that stuff, that will happen, you know?
It's such a, like, so Mark, so JP Morgan are saying, okay, we're going to offer this to our high net worth individuals. So the problem is it's a finite resource, right? There's only a certain amount, and loads of them have been lost and all that type of stuff. There's also a lot of them off the market. So they're in cold storage, like Shane just said there. So they're not not for sale, so that squeezes supply as well. So say if you're Mark, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, as you know, but say if you hold the keys to a lot of money, and you need something, and you don't want to pay a lot for it, you'd rather get a discount so you can sell it to your rich clients, or hold it for them. Would you manipulate a market to do that? Do you think? If you could.
I would put it past people.
So I'm gonna say, recently there was a big sell-off in Bitcoin, and there was a lot of people saying that.
Wait a second, what?
There was a big and it would dip from like 64 down below 30, and now it's back up to 40-ish or something. And instantly, a certain amount of those coins that were bought at the lower price were taken off the market. That type of move, that's the kind of industrial money or institutional money that is doing that, right? And they do it before. They do it with loads of different things. This is an old play for them, but some people look at that and they're worried. And then you could look at that and say, now that those guys are playing, they're legitimizing the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100% manipulation happens. 100%, and it's easier to do with Bitcoin because the market cap is small. Like, okay, the market cap of Bitcoin when it was coming up to its all-time high, 64,900. Somewhere along those lines, I think when it hit about 60,000, I don't have the exact maths here, but it hit 1 trillion. And that was important because gold's market cap is 10 trillion. And the whole narrative is that Bitcoin, while it's not necessarily being used as a peer-to-peer, people aren't spending it. I'm not going to go into Starbucks and spend, €5 worth of Bitcoin on a coffee or whatever when it could be worth like 50, 100. That's just stupid.
People did that though, didn't they?
So it's like, if the narrative, if it flips gold's market cap, it could become gold 2.0, digital gold, and be used as store of value. It's not. It's always going to have that 21 million supply, and for reasons even like earlier on that I've stated that it's estimated that approximately 2 million are lost. There's no real way of finding that, but like people are losing their private keys. It's not like there's no complaints hotline. You forget your password and you forget your different your login keys and stuff like that. You can't phone up like that company. You can't phone up that company and say, oh, I forgot my password, I forgot X and Y. It doesn't happen. There's no Bitcoin hotline. And a lot of people aren't ready for that responsibility yet either.
Because the limited supply, is it just going to get to a stage where there's two types of people in the world? People who have Bitcoin are like something similar, and people who don't. Because like, is it not supposed to be a global currency? I'm a bit confused in that regard.
It could. First of all, like okay, I'm obviously very biased. I'm obviously a Bitcoin bull. I'm obviously pro Bitcoin. It's not perfect though. And a lot of the YouTubers I've noticed, even the ones I like, there maybe could do with being a little bit more objective, Yeah. So to answer that question, really, you still have to remember that for every 1 Bitcoin, there's like 100 million Satoshis. So it can be broken up into tiny decimals. A lot of people, I think as my mom said to me recently, like, she goes, oh, I see the Bitcoin's up, like, and she kind of goes, how much of that do you have? I think my mom's the only person I've actually ever answered that question truthfully to. And she goes, isn't it great to be in a position to be doing that? And I was kind of going, you weren't around when I was holding during the bear market for 2-3 years. You know what I mean? And I think as well, she was getting at, a lot of people, what's it now, $37,000? The normal person on a normal job does not have $37,000 lying around, but people forget you can buy tiny, tiny decimals of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Bitcoin can be broke up into 100 million Satoshis. So there's that. But this is controversial. I do not believe in my lifetime it's going to be the world reserve currency. I just don't see that happening. Do I see it hitting 100,000? Yes. Do I see it hitting 300,000? Yes. Could I see it in half million, 10, 20 years? Yeah. There's always going to be that proportion of society and your friends who will say, that's ridiculous. But I remember explaining to my friends in 2017, it would have been June, outside PMax
Okay.
in town.
Dublin. Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna get involved in some of this. It was €2,000 at the time per coin. I was like, I'm buying some of this. I was laughed out of it. Monopoly money, fake money. Forget about it. That's crazy. Why just give that to me? You know, it's. But hey, like, you know, here we are.
And Mark, like to answer your question, or to maybe comment on your question, it's almost like you gotta protect yourself against that by buying some insurance with some Bitcoin. If you're not into you're not a bull, you're not like me, and you're like, this is a million, easy, you know, it's going to bring down governments, you know, anti-establishment, hate taxes, all that type of stuff. Just joking. Wow.
I don't believe in any of that, by the way. Like, I don't have a full tinfoil hat yet, you know. But no. Yeah.
But my point is, Mark, I think, I don't know who said this. I've been on a lot of blogs and stuff like that. But someone's saying, like, if depending on what your income is or whatever, you should be using this as a hedge to say, if it does become the de facto investment, if the people who have a Bitcoin now are the ones that are the only ones who can buy, you know, houses and stuff because they've got that as collateral, you should be buying, you know, whatever, €50 a month of that over a few years, dollar costs, averaging it in. You know, just so you have some, so if there is a big uplift, you're not left behind, right? So you're like, your relative wealth stays the same-ish, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's an argument for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a thought there as well. Like, say if somebody came and offered me, so is it real currency? If someone came to me and offered me the equivalent of what my house is worth in Bitcoin, I'd take it. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's real.
Right. So as in, are you saying, would you do that, or are you asking the question?
No, I would do that. So I'm saying
All
that
right.
kind of proves that it is real currency in that case, because I would exchange my biggest asset for the euro price of that.
Right.
Because I think, you know, that much would be life-changing 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting one. But like, so if we've talked a lot about the kind of the reasons behind it and that type of thing. From a strategic point of view, how many Bitcoins do you think you need to be a millionaire in 10 years?
To be a billionaire.
No, a millionaire.
A millionaire.
I'd settle for $1 million. Shit.
In 10 years.
I know that's yeah.
All right. So in 10 years, like, how do you even predict that? Like, you know, I suppose you work out when you think it's going to be $1 million, and then work out what the price is now and everything. I honestly don't know. Like, no one knows. That's it's that prediction.
Shane, let's say that's the reason you're in it, right? You wanna make some serious money in 10, even 20 years.
Yeah.
And I know you don't want to give financial advice, but what's a range that somebody hypothetically like myself and Luke should be thinking of investing, let's say, per month, if we want to potentially see some serious return? Basically,
like, are you talking about getting off zero?
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming you have no Bitcoin.
We have no Bitcoin right now.
No.
Right. Personally, if I was starting from scratch, given the price of Bitcoin now, I would do two things. I would start dollar cost averaging. Okay, I would.
And actually, just on that term, just to explain any kind of terms that come up or that we should know.
Yeah, no problem.
Might be worth kind of explaining them.
It's basically whenever you get paid, let's say you get paid every 2 weeks, and you pick out a certain amount of money, you're like, okay, I can afford to lose that. As in, poof, gone, you will never see it again. You have to have that mentality because it's still very risky. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, no, it'll be grand. It's not. It's like, if you could lose all this money. We don't know. It could go to zero. I don't believe that, but start dollar cost average. So just commit. You can set up a recurring buy on Coinbase, or personally, I would get on a cheaper exchange. They won't be as user friendly, but maybe something like Kraken, and just work it out. You'll be able to work it out. It's straightforward. But pick a certain amount you can afford to lose, and when the price goes up, you invest that amount. Let's just say it's €50. The price goes up, you buy Bitcoin. The price goes down, you buy Bitcoin. The price goes sideways, you buy Bitcoin. That's the first thing. The second thing I would do, which is something I started to do maybe in the last 12 months is look for undervalued altcoins. So obviously there are thousands of cryptocurrency. I think I did a binge on your podcast today, and you mentioned like Coinbase. I think it was the last episode, and there's about like, I don't know, just 8,000 coins or something like that. A lot of these coins are like, they're shit coins. Like they're just shit coins. They don't have a fixed supply. They don't have an actual use case. They're meme coins, like the likes of Dogecoin. It's crazy. It's a crazy time we live in. I would find altcoins that have good fundamentals, that actually read up on them, that actually seem to be trying to solve a problem, or filling a space or a gap in the market. When I say undervalued, about dollars, forget about euros and pounds. Go to compare instead of Ethereum price in Bitcoin, or it priced in Bitcoin, average into Bitcoin, but obviously Bitcoin's very expensive. So look for other altcoins, so other cryptocurrencies that aren't Bitcoin, that have decent fundamentals, that look like they solve an actual problem and that fill a gap in the market. But go on to TradingView and don't look at what Ethereum or Polkadot or Cardano, whatever one you pick, is priced in euros or dollars. Look at it priced in Bitcoin. And look for the ones that are undervalued, because when they pump, and a lot of the altcoins in during a bull run, percentage-wise, will pump against Bitcoin, will gain value against Bitcoin, then you trade them back for Bitcoin. So for example, I'll give you a very, very simple example. So a few months ago, I noticed, have you ever heard of Polkadot?
I've heard of Polkadot, but I don't know too much about it. It's the guy from Ethereum or something went there.
Gavin Wood. So he was like co-founder. Ethereum went off on his own. Long story short, different blockchains all do different things. Polkadot helps them communicate with each other. So back in like December, after a few people recommended it to me, and then after talking to my friend who's really, really good at researching altcoins, I traded a certain amount of Bitcoin for Polkadot, and now it's pumped against Bitcoin. So like it's pumped as in like whatever amount of Bitcoin I put in is now worth 3-4 times the amount. Trade it back. You know what I mean?
Okay, so using those trades to feed your overall Bitcoin
addiction.
So So that's kind of it's an interesting one. You're actually using crypto to actually do that. Me and Mark were thinking about, like, we've got like online we've got like Amazon t-shirt businesses, right, that make a certain amount a month. We were saying, okay, now that's just what we're going to pump into crypto, as we don't really need that anyway. It's kind of like kind of funny money generally, but you're doing that, except you're doing it with crypto. It seems like it might be a better return. So
I mean, it's the way I see it is like, dollar cost average is grand along and all, but it's just slow. You know what I mean? And what I'm doing is a risk, because I could put that, let's say you hypothetically put one Bitcoin into Polkadot and Polkadot collapsed. That's the risk you take. But comes down to, again, do your own research, like, and be looking for those coins. I have a friend who's like, he's just determined to find the really low market caps that is only like, like the market caps are like $1 million or $2 million, like that, and then for that to pump like 60,000% or something, and it happens. Like I mentioned Dogecoin earlier on. Like I'm not going to touch that, but people are doing scalp trades. They're trading Bitcoin for Dogecoin when it collapses, it pumps against Bitcoin, and they trade it back and they get free Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So
what's that strategy called? Is there a name for that?
Pump and dump, or a scalp trade, Okay. But it's just basically trading Bitcoin for undervalued altcoins. But you have to, on TradingView, just look for change the pair from Bitcoin to euro to Bitcoin and whatever coin you're researching. Like a lot of them are still pretty undervalued. Like, so like when Bitcoin has a bull run, like it might pump, or let's say it pumps like 50% or whatever like that. Some of the altcoins could pump like 200-300%. It's not uncommon for that to happen, but they tend to crash harder as well. So if people just want to get off zero, start dollar cost averaging.
So we just heard the dollar cost averaging is the getting off zero. I think that's where we're at now. I think me and Mark, speculating on Polkadot right now is probably not our first stop, although it does seem like it's the most fun that we could have. But we should maybe, Mark, like we're both going to put in a certain amount every month. Maybe we'll have half go to crazy speculation, and half to Bitcoin, and then whatever we win, we put into the Bitcoin thing.
Yeah, I kind of, again, because I have so much going on, I would prefer kind of set it and forget it type strategy personally.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to do the heavy lifting, Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard to Shane, are you there? Shane's face is frozen there, as if I think he was. It looked like he was interested in what we were saying.
I can still hear you.
Okay, he's still there.
I can still hear you.
Because I was, Mark makes a point there that having something that's a little bit more kind of set it and forget it, or giving you that exposure that you're worried about missing the boat rather than the act of trading. Because I've tried that a few times, and I've got like a spread betting account that I trade like commodities and stuff like that. And you have to, if you're gonna make money out of it, you got to be checking in every day. You got to know what the kind of the macro stuff is happening with corn, and if you're busy, it is a tough thing to kind of capitalize on, unless you're doing it full time in Puerto Rico or wherever these crypto guys do be hanging out. Jenny, there? You're still frozen on us.
You're back.
Yeah, I think so. I can still hear you, but it's just cutting in and out.
Maybe cut the video, maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes that works. What about now?
Cut the video there. So,
we can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Okay,
perfect. So I guess we're coming up on where we usually kind of leave with our kind of like our final thoughts, or what we our call to action for people listening. I think after talking to you about this whole Bitcoin thing, and the fear of missing out is there for sure. But I actually, after doing a lot more research, it seems like this is something that I'd like to get into. And I think that, I think it was a really good piece of advice you said, is you got to understand it if you're going to invest in it. So take the time to learn about it. Take everybody's advice with a pinch of salt on YouTube on both sides, trying to figure out exactly what's going on, and get cracking. I think Kraken is actually an exchange, Mark.
That's where they must have got the name from.
So, Mark Baker, you're all in. What are we thinking?
Yeah.
$5,000 a month. What do you think?
I don't have that much cash on the hip, but I think it needs to be something substantial though to keep me interested.
Yeah.
So we'll discuss this offline.
Yeah, we'll take it offline. But Shane, we do have one more question for you before you head off to your Bitcoin palace that you've built.
We have some final questions that we.
Oh, we got some. Okay, yeah.
The quick fire ones.
Yeah, quick fire. Yeah, let's do it.
I might keep a few of these kind of crypto based, but what apps do you use the most?
Crypto apps.
If you like.
I still use Coinbase for if it's just handy for buying on the go. I use Kraken as well for kind of limit trades and just very, very cheap fees. And then I actually use the Stocks app, the one that comes on the iPhone. That's just handy, just like the layout of it, just for quick checks and stuff like that.
Okay, very good. How much money is enough money?
How much money is enough money? If you could pay off your mortgage, or a substantial chunk of your mortgage, I think if you could pay off your mortgage, that is more than enough money, because then your money coming in, then you can spend on doing the things that matter. Like the way I look at it is, I'm into music, I'm into snowboarding, and I'm into mountain biking. And they're all going to be pretty, if you listen to a song, it's going to pretty much sound the same, whether you're a millionaire or whether you're on minimum wage. So yeah, I think pay off the mortgage, that would be class. Like just to not have to pay rent or mortgage ever again. I think that would be enough to be proper rich.
It's such an interesting concept as well, because I often think about that, and I think I'd just make coffee. I think things would, I think your perception of how much you need would change a little bit if you've got that kind of put aside. But like, that's still quite a substantial sum to a lot of people.
Depends on where you want to live.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, yes, that's a good point.
Okay. If you could advise somebody to learn one skill, what would it be?
One skill.
Bitcoin mining.
It doesn't pay as well as it used to. One skill. Oh wow. Honestly, probably to swim. I think everyone should be able to swim.
It's a good answer. It's really important.
Yeah, I used to be a lifeguard. So it's kind of been built. It's built into me. Yeah. So I think the swim. Yeah.
Very good. You mentioned earlier, but what book would you recommend to the 18-year-old you? Would it be that book that you mentioned already? No, it'd be a book called, actually ties into Paul Devaney there. It's a book called Into Thin Air. It is the best book I've ever read. It's about climbing Everest and a disaster that happened on Everest. It's a true story. You would not be disappointed. Into Thin Air by John Crocker. Fantastic.
Nice.
Very good. And what advice would you give to the 18-year-old Shane?
Oh my God. Shut up. Talk less, listen more. You don't know everything. That's exactly what I'd say to him. And he wouldn't listen.
It'll be wasted anyway.
He absolutely wasted. He has to learn his own way.
That's it.
One more, Shane. What would you prefer? A T-shirt that says SharkPod on it, or would you prefer a SharkPod mug to keep you up all night looking at your stocks?
I reckon I'm going to go for the mug, and occasionally I'm going to, when I'm filming the episodes, take a drink out of it and give you a plug as well, because I really appreciate you asking me on here. I really do appreciate it, and I thoroughly enjoyed the podcast. I'm going to keep listening, and can I add one thing, actually, if you wouldn't mind?
Go for it.
One of the lads, one of my friends basically said, look, he was curious about investing in Bitcoin. I said, look, keep it simple. Download Coinbase and invest. Every time you get paid, he gets paid every 2 weeks. I said, right, put in a tenner every 2 weeks. So your total investment is going to be €260. Now, it might be worth that in the end. And I said, if the Bitcoin is worth less than 260 in the end, I'd buy it off him for the price that he paid. So he will not lose anything. So it's basically a win-win, And I'll take that bet once it's a tenner every 2 weeks with pretty much anyone, because I'll still get the Bitcoin out of it. In future, I think I will do better, even if it goes collapsing over the next year. But it's a no-brainer for him. Like, he still gets his 260 quid, and I'm stuck with the risk, but I don't think it's a risk. I think I've made my feelings quite clear on that.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it as well. So, like, keep it long-term view, like any investment, and the trading is a different thing, and it's it requires different skills, but different knowledge. But I think the investing, if you're going to be like me, who's just going to be like just hanging on to anything I ever buy, because I don't care what the price is, I would never sell anyway. It's like I would say that with with even like we were talking about housing and stuff like that. This is the house that I want to live in. So if the price went down, it's still priceless. I wouldn't sell it. So
yeah, I gotcha.
But anyway, so thanks very much, Shane, for coming on the podcast today. We'll put all the links to your YouTube stuff in the show notes, as well as that book and some other bits and pieces. And none of this was financial advice, but I'm sure that people are out there, they're listening. They want to become millionaires. This might be the easiest way to do it. Let's do it, Mark. Right. I'm all in. Thanks, Shane.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.